All right, well, welcome back. We are back again. It's a brand new episode of Colorful Lives. Now, again, thank you guys for tuning in. If it is your first time joining us, because I can't assume that y'all are, everybody's listening all the time, hopefully. Even if this is your first time, we welcome you to the family. I'm Angela Yee, and with me, as always, is the Shmoney Team.
I'm Aminatu So.
And I am millennial money expert Tanya Rapley of MyFab Finance.
We did not forget about the accountability check-in this week. We've just all been traveling and taping the show back to back. So tune in next week for the update.
We love the fact that we received a ton of questions from our wonderful listeners using that hashtag Live Colorful with 2 L's at the end of colorful. So Callie Cals tweeted using the hashtag Live Colorful. I've been thinking about life insurance now that my kid is almost 18. Is it even common to buy life insurance in your 30s?
Yes.
It's a great question. You can find a lot of resources on letstarttoday.com. But this life insurance, that's one of the things that even though I didn't have my life together in my mid-20s, my mom was like, look, if something happens to you, I want to be able to bury you, get life insurance.
Wow. Damn.
It was real talk.
But it's
that's why she had a really nice funeral.
She was like, look, honey, I'm going to have enough to worry about. But it's like, that's why we see so many, no shade to anybody, but that's why we see so many GoFundMe funerals and so forth. It's because we plan to live long, colorful, rich lives, but sometimes things happen and you pass, you're untimely passing and your family's not financially prepared for that. And that's just one of the many uses of life insurance.
Like, I support my family. And so I've always thought about life insurance as if I'm not here. And also, like, my family lives overseas. So a lot of processes are just hard. It's like, even if they could get access to my bank account or whatever, everything will take longer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in a situation where they need cash or, that kind of stuff, life insurance was always something that I thought about. Also, if you have an office job, like, for self-employed people, it's a little different. But if you have an office job, it is almost always a benefit that is offered. And so you can just sign up for it. And I think like at my first job, it was something, especially when you're young, it's something like $9 a month. Like you're not even going to miss the money.
Yeah.
So you might as well do it. And, I'm like, my mom died when I was in my 20s. And I will say this, that from that experience, the best thing that you can do for the people that you love is to be prepared in case you are not
Okay,
here.
I got to get it together.
So it's a really hard conversation to have with your family. But with my dad, I did it like one time where I was like, I need you to write a will. I need to figure out like what all of life insurance is. It's not pleasant conversations, but life is life. Like
I was like, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Like things happen.
And also you just know, and you will feel better knowing that if you're not here, like Angela, you do so much for so many people.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if you can't do it for them.
Right.
I know that you would feel so much better knowing that they're taken care of. They're going to be okay.
So, you won't be, they would be okay.
And I have to do a will also.
Yeah, we actually did a master class. So our last master class for MyFab Finance was on creating a will. And the importance of that was conveyed to me this past February when my husband's mother passed. And luckily he's an only child and she didn't have anyone to contest or anything like that. But she didn't have a will. But luckily she had a power of attorney. And the state that she passed in, like we had to implement that. He had to take control of her bank accounts and everything. And I just saw how important it was. I got on my parents. I was like, we have to do this because I think every day we see people who didn't think, it was going to be the end for them.
So I have to prepare. So everyone
you do,
around me,
it's
and it's crazy because you're right. I do need to do it. And what it is, sometimes we get false information. Somebody told me one time, well, if you don't have kids, you don't have to really worry about life insurance because that's what it's really for. And
to an extent, like my best friend, her mother passed when we were 20 and her mother left her a significant amount of money. And it helped her. Like, and her, she was,
right.
But there's so many other people outside of your kids who depend on you.
Right. It's like the reverse could happen, right? Where like for me, I'm like, if something happens to me, I want my dad to be like, my dad's still, he's retired, but he's still young,
right.
And I'm like, I would like for him to be comfortable. I would like my siblings to be able to, like for things not to get so thrown off that their like standard of life will change.
And that's exactly what it's for, to help them maintain.
All right, you guys, I'm going to do it.
Also, the will.
That's your next, that's one of your accountability.
You know what I do for all of this like death stuff? Like, I do it right around tax time where once a year I just sit down and I go, is my will up to date? Or I have a document where I keep all of my passwords, like my, like banking stuff, whatever, all of this stuff. So it's like if something happens, that my
is there a
family
password for that?
There is a password for that. There is a password for that. I use a password manager. And also I just make sure once a year that it's okay. It takes 20 minutes. It's very gross. But you're just like, you just have a lot of things. People always assume that they don't have, like, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of stuff. But the truth is that you do. And somebody, when you're not here, somebody's going to have to make decisions about that.
Right. Yeah.
And if you love your people, you will figure it out. Another way that I found out that, like, you know, you always have more stuff than you think is when I was in college, I got renter's insurance. So when you get renter's insurance, you have to like catalog all your stuff and you have to decide what value it has. And so some people are just like, oh, all I have are clothes and shoes, you know, or whatever. But it's not true. It's like once you start, it's like, think about it this way. If your whole house flooded or your whole house burned down, how much money would it take for you to like live that life again?
A lot.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised at like how all of that stuff adds up. And it also just gives you it gives you a perspective on like knowing what your worth is like currently and the things that you have to replace. But the thing with renter's insurance is that you also need to stay on top of it. You should know what your deductible is. So you need to know like what your premiums are every month. So your premiums are the amount of money that you pay every month. Your deductible is what the
what you have to pay when something does happen.
Yeah, it's like if something happens, like, how much money would it cost?
To get that
exactly.
The money basically
so it's like if your deductible is like, I don't know, like $5,000, which that's
or
probably
mine is $250 on my renter's insurance.
Right. I'm like $5,000 is too much money. But if it's like, you know, $250 and the thing that you get stolen from you is less than $250,
then you might as well just replace it.
Yeah, you probably want to replace it yourself.
Claim.
The other thing though that you need to be aware of is that insurance uses actual cash value, so the market value. So it means that whatever the price is that you paid for that computer when it first came out, is not the money that you're going to get
so
back.
It's not the latest version.
Yeah,
no, because depreciation.
Yeah, because of depreciation. And insurance companies are good at that. But it's still like money that you didn't have. I have found that like renter's insurance is still the best investment I make. Like I am really happy to pay renter's insurance every month.
I second you on that. Actually, I had an issue where we were paying renter's insurance for like 2 years, and I thought about canceling it because like I'm paying this every year, whatever. And then we came home and our ceiling, like it had collapsed pretty much in our bedroom, and like it had been raining, and so our furniture was damaged. But what actually was the most damaged was like our passports and so forth. And we were about to go to Kenya. And so we had to get our passports expedited, but our insurance company like covered all those costs that were related to that, replaced our furniture and everything else, and we were able to get the ceiling repaired.
So question, the owner of the property is not liable for that?
What's in the property. Like they're responsible for the physical damage, but not what happens to your actual unit. Like
so renter's insurance, extremely
like they wouldn't
important.
replace your couch.
And they transferred it like next day.
Oh, that's
it was
dope.
like in my bank. And another thing about that is a lot of times if you have your policies with the same people. So I paid my car insurance, my renter's insurance, and my life insurance all on one payment. Like everything is just lumped into one payment. So I don't have to, you know, make different payments. So that's the benefit of, you know, deciding to go with one particular agency so that it's easy for you to file a claim. It's easy for you to get payouts. And you usually have a relationship with them. And so all my policies, your policy is essentially like the written document that states what they'll cover, what your rights are, how much you pay and everything like that. And I just have all my policies at one place just to make it convenient.
Well, that whole discussion was great, I was going to say, because we did have a question from Rama and Marilyn, but y'all answered that.
I was going to say like one quick thing though about renter's insurance also that people don't realize. If you have a car, a lot of times if your car gets broken in, like it's parked at your house, you like that stuff also gets covered under your renter's insurance.
Wait, does it have to be in a garage?
It doesn't have to be like when it happened to my roommate in college. She was just parked on the curb. We didn't have a garage, but it was like part of.
I think homeowners
too. It covered that. So all of this to say that you should figure out like what your renter's insurance covers, and a lot of times it can be things like break-ins. It can, you know, like it can be like your ceiling caves in, and those are all things that can happen. So even if you feel like I've had 5 years and nothing has happened, it's like then that's fine. It's like peace of mind.
But things can.
And the day that something happens, you can take care of it.
I will never think about canceling my rental insurance policy again.
Never.
And another policy, I actually have my wedding ring insured. I actually insured my wedding ring
and that goes
too.
under that same rental insurance.
The same policy. Like I have a separate policy for my wedding ring. It was really affordable, but it's like those things that you just don't want to think about it if something was to happen. And I'm really forgetful and I lose things, and like I just needed to insure it because my husband is probably like, that's it. I'm not buying you another
Well, you
one.
guys completely answered that question from Rama and Marilyn at Goya Mingo, who wrote, I don't even know where to start incorporating finance into my post-grad school plans. Are things like renter's insurance even necessary? Clearly, yes.
Yes, and it's so affordable. That's the thing. Like, and insurance is not as, like, life insurance, renter's insurance, and so forth is not as expensive as health insurance, thank God. And so it is a lot more affordable, and all like life insurance policies, they all provide a death benefit, which is simply that sum of money we were talking about that is designated to beneficiaries when that insured person dies. And it's like, yes, renter's insurance, life insurance, I think those are just essential.
Yeah, I think also like disability insurance is really important. At my last job, they offered it and a colleague of mine had to use it. And, you know, again, it's like, I think that especially for us, because we're young, we always think that like nothing can happen. You know, it's like disability can happen to you. The other insurance that we had was unemployment insurance. And I was really lucky that I had that when I lost my job at one point. And then it's like I got paid my salary because I had contributed to this insurance fund. So I think that you should just sit down and make up what your priorities are, you know, and where, like, how I just think about insurance as like this allows me to sleep at night. That I know that if you know, a catastrophe happens or something that you hadn't planned for, that you are prepared for it.
Yeah, because disability insurance, like, believe it or not, more than 1 in 4 20-year-olds will experience a disability for 90 days or more before they reach the age of 67. That's according to the Social Security Administration. So there's 2 main types of disability insurance, is short-term and long-term coverage, and both of them replace a portion of your monthly base salary up to a cap for a specific amount of time. So it's important.
Right. Absolutely. And you also, for disability insurance, when you collect your benefits, they're tax-free. So that's something that's important to remember. And, you know, I would say if you work in an office, look at all of the benefits that they offer and how much they cost. And a lot of times it truly is like nothing. Like
it is
for less than like $100 out of your paycheck, like all of this stuff is covered. Like you can just think about it that way. You never see the money. It never comes out of your pocket. If you're self-employed, if, you know, you think that it's something that you want, I would say like prioritize it and say like this year I'm going to figure out how to make enough money that I can afford the, you know, like the disability insurance, because that's something that's important to me. Next year, I'm going to add on
individual. That's really important. It really is important.
Yeah, because nobody's going to cover you. I didn't work for 6 months when I had cancer.
Like,
you know
you
what I mean?
know,
no, you're right.
So just knowing that I had
and you
planned
never
for
know if no one anticipates something like that happening. So
yeah, that's the whole point of insurance,
right?
Like, you know, is that you never know. It's the unexpected. Like nobody plans for a car to hit your car,
right?
And
you know, you can purchase an individual policy, like we were saying, and buying your own policy lets you customize that coverage with extra features like an annual cost of living adjustment. You get to choose your insurance company, so you can visit with your local State Farm agent as an option, and you get to keep the coverage when you change jobs. So employer paid coverage ends when you actually leave the company.
I was gonna say that.
But you might be able to take the coverage if you pay the full premium for disability insurance offered through the workplace, and you get to control the disability insurance. Employer-sponsored coverage could end if the employer says, hey, stop, no more disability benefits.
Right. You know, and especially like if you think about when you're running your own business, it's so important because you're liable in so many different places. Like when you work in an office, like your office anticipates all these things. It's almost like they're like, what does the head of a household need in case they're not here? Those are all the benefits that you get. But when you work for yourself, you have to figure out your own overhead, right? So thinking about like how, like if you have a store, a brick and mortar store, you're liable for that property. You need general liability. You need like business interruption coverage, all of, you know, like, and it sounds like it's really hard. It's not that hard. You know, there's so many resources that you can use. And the thing I'd say also about insurance people, especially when you run your own business, you get to have a relationship with them, you know? And so so when you think about a company, you know, or an agency, as the jargon is, an agency is a company that gives you insurance. And this podcast is sponsored by one. Thank you, State Farm. You think about the fact that like it's not that you just put all this information on a computer and these are anonymous people. There's actually an agent that you can call that will walk you through all that stuff.
Good agent, State Farm is there. I
love that. No, I do love those commercials, but I think that a lot of times like people don't realize that. It's like, oh no, they're real human beings. You can call them, and if you don't know what you need, they will walk you through the steps. And it feels, you know, like it'll make you feel like a good small business owner that you know how to take care of your business.
Yeah. And since you're one of the most important parts of your business, you don't want to forget about those things for yourself as well. Like you want to take care of your people. You also want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And as a small business owner, you want to make sure you're covering those bases because that means also property, general liability, and business interruption coverage. And so there are many options as an individual, but there's also options as a business owner. And I think that's one thing, we talk about a lot is owning a business and going beyond just selling products or, getting customers. It really is making sure that you're running a legitimate business. You have the proper structure, you have the proper financial support when it comes to taxes and so forth, and that you're protecting your business assets and yourself, who's you are your greatest asset.
Right.
In my opinion.
I would never think about all of this regulation stuff as their impediments to business. It really is to protect you because people are quick to sue you and people are, and also this is, otherwise anybody could just go out and willy-nilly start anything and sell people things that don't work or don't do things. So think about it this way. It's the insurance agency is there to help you. And all of the regulations are also there to help you. And so that's how you protect
regulations, we have some changes in tax laws this year.
Woo, 2018 for small business owners.
Now, small business owners and entrepreneurs could see their taxes decrease in 2018. That's going to be due to 3 major changes to the tax laws. Lower individual tax rates.
So they say.
Additional 20% deduction for companies filing as pass-through entities.
So that's the LLCs.
80% of small business owners actually file as pass-through entities. And expansion of the Section 179 filing, which allows for the expensing of business-related equipment. Also, the doubling of the standard deduction will also be a boon to many individuals. But of course, there's downsides as well.
Many deductions have been eliminated, including business expenses like travel costs and membership dues. And I know
that's a big chunk of my deductions.
Travel costs are that's where my pot of gold is of my deductions and so forth.
Also
and membership dues. Yeah. It's just you could justify, a pricey membership because it was a tax write-off. And so the fact that we're losing that, I mean, there's upsides and there's downsides, but it is also working with a professional who understands these changes in the tax laws and how you can take advantage of them and maximize your tax advantages. Because I think that's one thing that a lot of the privileged entrepreneurs have over kind of just people who are figuring it out for themselves is they don't know how to maximize their tax benefits and get the most out of the current tax structure.
Right. The other thing to remember is that, laws change, taxes go up and down every year. So if this is the 2018 situation, you can't get complacent and think that this is what's going to happen in 2019. We have a whole new government, whole new rules.
Life comes at you fast with this administration.
Congress will decide something different. So it is just that, I feel like I'm a broken record and I keep saying this, but being a small business owner is about being organized and staying on top of your stuff.
Right.
So,
and protecting yourself and your business.
Exactly. And so this is actually a perfect example of why, instead of figuring out the tax software yourself, you can pay somebody to do this for you because it is that person's job to know every year what the tax situation is.
Yes.
And also, if you do tax planning, you can prepare ahead because
it's a lot of burden lifted off of you.
Yeah.
We already have a lot to think about when it comes to running your business every day.
You don't have to be that one person doing everything in your business.
No, teamwork makes the
dream
work.
Let an expert handle it, okay?
We get all kinds of insurance questions from you all the time, but the truth is, as much as we know about making money moves, we're still not experts. When it comes to protecting the people and things you love, including yourself, you don't want to leave it up to chance or to guessing. So we wanted to call in one of the pros to help us track down answers to some of your frequently asked insurance questions.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, a State Farm agent. Please introduce yourself to people.
Sure. First and foremost, I'm excited to be here, ladies. And
Welcome.
I look forward to chatting with you a little bit about insurance and financial services. But my name is Victoria Anderson. I am a State Farm agent. I've been an agent for about 4 years. Prior to jumping into entrepreneurship, I was in corporate HR for a couple of really large brands and decided to take the plunge, and here I am.
All right. Well, we have so many questions that I know you'll be able to help us with today because you're the expert. So we talked about basic insurance terms and concepts in this episode. Can you break down the difference between whole and term life insurance?
I can. So there are a lot of common misconceptions about life insurance. Many people think it's not affordable, that it is something you don't need unless you're a lot older. But there are a lot of different options that are available to you that, depending on your budget and your goals, can definitely make sure you and your family are well protected. So one of the biggest differences, or the way that I like to describe it to my customers between term and perm or whole life, is that term insurance is almost like renting. So you decide how long you'd like the policy to protect your life, and you rent the policy, if you will, for that period of time. For example, if you'd like to get a $100,000 term policy for 30 years, then you're covered for 30 years. And if you outlive that policy, then you don't get any of the money back. A whole life policy is what's considered a permanent policy. So you pay into the policy for the rest of your life. And it also accrues what we call in the insurance world cash values. So what that means is you're also entitled to a living benefit, meaning over time you accrue cash value and interest in the policy. And you can actually take that money out of the policy to do other things with while you're alive, in addition to having a death benefit that you leave for your family.
Are there penalties when you take it out?
Great question, Angela. You do have to repay it back as a loan to yourself, and you pay that back with interest. But you do have the option to, so I'll give you a very specific example. Let's say you get a whole life policy that's a 10-pay life. You're done paying for it completely within 10 years, but you continue to earn guaranteed cash values in the policy. So you'll get to points in time where you have enough money that you can actually borrow against that policy, with the option to pay it back or have your overall death benefit reduced by the amount that's still outstanding.
Got you.
So there are lots of affordable
y'all,
options.
I already did you a favor. I needed that money.
Right?
I didn't know that. Really quick question about insurance. Does having children affect your ability to qualify for insurance? Like the act of actually having children, does it affect your premium? Have you ever seen that happen?
Well, it depends on whether or not you have, let's say, chronic health disabilities.
So
that's generally what affects your price. So age and health are the two biggest indicators of your price point, which is why we encourage people to consider policies very, very young. When you're still young and healthy and you don't have any illness that may have been identified, or even for infants. So many of my customers will consider like that policy that I just mentioned, a 15-pay policy on a one-year-old is extremely cheap, averages roughly $66 a month. You're done paying for it by the time your kid's 16. Wow. So they now have this policy for the rest of their life.
That's so great.
That is a good investment.
I have a question about the ways that being in an accident or illness or anything can change your policy. Like, do you get dropped? I'm a cancer survivor, and that's something that's very front of mind for me.
That's a great question. So the short answer is once you're locked into a policy, specifically a whole life policy, right? So you are guaranteed coverage under that policy if approved for the policy at the time that you apply for the rest of your life. So that's another one of the benefits of considering whole life versus term is there is no expiration date. So you buy it, the price point is set. Assuming you don't allow it to lapse in coverage, then it's yours until the day you die or until you decide to surrender it and just get the money out of it.
What about for people who would like to get life insurance after they have had significant health issues?
So there are some instances where you may or may not qualify, or you could be rated higher than you would have been if you got it before those health issues were identified. So generally, there is an option for most people. The question is what amount you may have to pay if you are in a situation where your health is not ideal.
And your occupation would matter too, like if you're a stunt double.
Correct.
For all the stunt doubles who listen to this podcast.
Just as an example.
Insurance is all about risk.
Right.
Yeah,
and so we're basically identifying the risk associated with the person for any policy and then determining what your premium amount will be based on that.
Would you have to go get like a medical exam before you even get approved?
In some instances, you do.
I remember I had to get a medical.
When I signed up, I didn't have to. It was just like a work benefit. So they just
work
because it was part of a larger, I guess like a big policy.
And they let you keep it after you left?
Yeah, they let me keep it after I left.
Because usually it's like it usually expires while you're an employee after you're no longer an employee.
That was the point of leaving. It's like I get to take these benefits. Thank you.
That was great.
I paid into
generous
them.
Of them.
What are it's funny that we're asking you all these questions because I think that, and we've wrestled through this on the show too about there's just so little that we know about insurance. So what are the biggest insurance myths that you encounter every day at work?
So one that many people think they don't need it. I mean, they are literally of the opinion, why do I need to protect my home? Why do I need to protect my life? I don't have children. I don't plan to have children. And so most people are just uneducated about the many benefits. So, for example, with the homeowner's policy, I think the average person knows that it protects the structure of your home. Many people don't know that you also have protection for everything inside of your home. Or if you have a tenant, we will do what's called loss of use, which means any rental income that you lose in the event of a fire or a claim, we will reimburse you for that. Most times right after a claim, you're in a situation where you're discombobulated. You may not have clothes. You don't have a place to live. We'll give you reimbursement for all of those things. So I think a lot of misconceptions are that there are lots of benefits that people just don't know about, or
and
they
if you're
don't
a renter
think
and
they
not a
need.
homeowner, you can get renter's insurance also.
Oh, renter's insurance is the best money I ever spent. I was just, it was so cheap that I was like, I don't care about it. And then when I actually needed to use it, I was so happy that I had it.
I'm glad you said that. Our cheapest policy is $10 a month.
Yeah, it's so cheap.
It doesn't make any
terribly
sense not to do it. It really doesn't. Like $10 a month.
Yeah. And then my
definitely.
house got robbed and everything got replaced very easily. It was perfect. I think it was like $60 a year. And I was
get
like,
what you
why
can.
not? You know?
Yeah.
All came back. I have questions for you for personal
I
use
definitely
later.
am interested in perm because I know I signed up for term life insurance when I was in my mid-20s, and that's what I could afford. But I do want to get a permanent policy, and that's why I'm like, being pregnant, will they charge me significantly more because I'm with child and there's a child coming into the picture, or would it be as if I wasn't? So that's there's so many variables and it's about risk. And so I'm just wondering, like, am I risky now because I'm going to have a baby in a few months?
Risky. Not the pregnancy itself.
I am low risk. I will say that. Thank God. I am low risk right now.
We also have a really interesting in-between policy called return to premium. So this one is similar to a term where you rent it for a certain amount of time. But every dollar that you put into the policy, you get back. So lots of customers will use that as almost a savings benefit, right? So I'm going to get $100,000 for 30 years. And depending on what I pay monthly, every dollar at the end of that 30 years, I get back in a lump sum check.
Oh, at least
so,
that.
Absolutely. So if it's taking you into retirement, that can be money that you're counting as a part of your retirement fund to supplement other things that you have going
And what's that one called?
It's called return of premium.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Is there a maximum amount that you can put in?
There's not. There's not.
I like hearing this.
That's like a savings account.
I run my home office from my house.
Okay.
Is that covered under my the insurance for my apartment, or do I have to get something separate for that?
So it would not be covered, at least with State Farm, under a renter's policy, but it would be covered if you had a homeowner's policy.
Okay.
So there is an endorsement that includes a home office up to a certain dollar amount, and depending on what your business is. So you could certainly consider a separate policy for that if you are a renter. But if you own the home, it's included automatically in your plan.
Well, I'm all about saving money, so I got to ask you about bundling. Some people are reluctant to get or bundle insurance because they're worried they'll be upsold on a bunch of things that they don't need. But you can actually save a lot by bundling products. So are you able to help customers identify areas where they can trim or just adjust coverage or get discounts? Or is it only about selling?
No, absolutely. I would say one of the biggest opportunities that my salespeople have every single day is helping a customer identify ways to, because insurance, at least in the state of New York for auto insurance, can be expensive. And so most of our customers call us to discuss primarily the auto insurance policy. And it's my team's responsibility to mention different coverages or different deductibles, all of which are ways to help you reduce your overall spend.
It is always a good idea to kind of sit down and go over the numbers of what you're spending on your different policies that you have to see what that can actually be reduced to.
Absolutely. And in continuing that vein of saving money, I know I've heard that you can get special deductions for paying on time, being a responsible driver, or homeowner, staying on top of your health or anything else. Is that true? And have you been able to work that out for individuals that you help?
It's absolutely true. So every insurance company has different options in terms of what they offer. But at State Farm, we do have loyalty discounts. So if you're someone that chooses to stick with the company versus shop every 6 months, you start to see more savings over time. If you are someone that pays your bills on time, that will help you to get a much better premium than someone who late pays often.
That's why I like to use my automatic deductions.
I know. So let's say that the wonderful millennials who listen to the Colorful Lives podcast are ready to walk into a State Farm agent office and get their lives together. What should we bring to talk to somebody?
Well, you should bring an open mind and be prepared to be to be educated on different things that may be right for you. You should also have a good idea of what your goals are, right? So if you are looking to, we talked a lot about life insurance. If you're looking to get something that will allow you to save, if you're looking to get something that will allow you to have cash values over time. So have a good idea of your budget, have a good idea of your goals. Frankly, have a good idea of your assets, right? So what do you have that you want to protect? And so that we can have a really robust conversation about what may be right for you.
Now, let's talk about if you already have home insurance, but you're going to perhaps remodel or do an addition to your property. Do you have to get special insurance for that?
If you're going to remodel, you would want to talk to your agent just to let them know if that's going to increase the value of your home. There might need to be some adjustments to your policy overall. If the home's going to be vacant, you definitely want to tell your agent because there's a different level that we need to align to the policy if no one's going to be living there. So it's always a good idea if there are major changes happening in any respect, right? Be it the home, be it maybe you're having a baby or you're getting married. It's a good idea to recalibrate on what you have and how that may need to change based on your needs and what we can offer you.
Is that the kind of the kind of relationship that you can have with your agent, that they check in with you, or is the onus really
like a good
on you?
Neighbor.
Like a good neighbor.
You're making me so proud.
It's true though. I feel like my my renter's insurance person always checks in, and that's why I've stayed with that agent for so long. That's always like, what's going on in your life? Like, what do you have? Is that the level of service that you can expect, and for somebody to tell you all of the different services that State Farm offers, for example? Like, I didn't know this until we were in New Orleans at Essence Fest, and we were talking with the team there that there's financial literacy, there are banking resources, and and community events that you can go to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think one of the benefits of being, there are lots of great insurance companies, certainly here in the U.S., but one of the benefits of State Farm is you do have a local agency and team that are familiar with you, with your history, with changes in your life. And so my team, every renewal, we do policy reviews to see if there are adjustments that are swinging the policy up in one direction and what can we do to help with that, or if there are big life changes coming up that you might benefit from speaking with us about. That's one of the things that we make a priority to connect on at least an annual basis to see if there are opportunities for us to help you to review what you may need moving forward.
I feel like we're friends already, and I can just
like a good neighbor.
Like a good neighbor in my life.
It's like Victoria's been our neighbor this entire time.
You just didn't know it, but now you do.
No, this is great.
Let's have a drink and discuss our insurance policies.
I'm for real, yeah.
Can you also tell us really quickly?
Drink, though, but yeah.
Can you tell us also really quickly before we let you go,
Sure,
why it seems like I know everybody already knows this, especially if you buy your own, that healthcare costs are going up, but it also seems that insurance across the board is going up. Is that something, that like State Farm just wants more of our money, or are there other forces at work here?
Are we more expensive? Like, are we riskier as a people now?
There are lots of other forces at work. So insurance is a pool of risk, right? So if you think about, I don't know if any of you lovely ladies have ever had, let's say, an accident. And if you think about,
yes, I'm an excellent driver.
Now, it's
not
been
a
a
car.
while, but
Listen,
when I first started driving, they called me Thelma and Louise, me and my best friend, because we've had quite a few accidents.
All of the car accidents I've been in, I was not responsible.
Yeah,
for.
I was not in them.
I was not.
I was a passenger.
That.
Except for Angela, taking people out left and right.
If you think about what you pay into the policy versus what we may pay out if there is a really unfortunate accident, obviously those are not the same. And so insurance it is a pool of risk. And so if we're in a situation where there have been lots of claims because of catastrophes, think
a deer
Hurricane
actually
Sandy,
ran into my car.
Was the deer insured by State Farm?
The deer ran into my car.
No, but that's
that
a
really
real
happens.
thing. That's a real. I was in North Carolina a few weeks ago at my parents' house, and it was probably about 6:00 in the afternoon, and there was just a deer walking through the neighborhood. Like, normally you don't see that, but it's like deer. They're like, we're really destroying their natural habitat and they're becoming more comfortable. So they're like running into cars left and right now.
I was just trying to go to Six Flags, minding my business, and still ran into
the highway. You on the highway?
It was like on the side road on the way to Six Flags.
Oh, like the little back roads back there.
Yeah, and the deer just darted out of nowhere.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, there's more deer causing problems. So yeah, but that makes sense. More natural disasters with global warming and so forth like that. That all does affect our insurance costs. Look at that.
It does. Absolutely. Every year we have to evaluate, kind of overall claims, and that can cause rates overall to be higher or lower just depending on what's happening in the environment.
They're costing us even more money.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and helping us get a more complete understanding around insurance. Now, where can our listeners find out more and locate a local agent or even use you?
Absolutely. Or if you're looking for me, it's victoriaanderson.org, or you can always Google State Farm agents in your area, and there are a plethora of us. So many will pop up, and any one of us can help you with your insurance or financial services or banking needs.
Victoria, you better have your own domain.
No, .org.
Yes, and then also it is important to point out that, our listeners can visit letstarttoday.com if they have questions about the financial education, banking, and resources and events that State Farm has to offer. So make sure you tap into Victoria's pool of knowledge and make sure you check out Let's Start Today.
If you want awesome women dealing with your insurance, definitely check out State Farm. I love it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Now, that's all the time we've got for this week. # Live Colorful. Again, with those 2 L's at the end of colorful. So make sure you hashtag us and join that social conversation. We'll answer your questions next week. So you can @ us. You can use that hashtag. We'll be looking for your questions. And of course, for more tips and resources for home, life, and disability insurance, you can visit letsstarttoday.com and search home insurance, life insurance, and disability insurance.
And guys, as Angela said, please continue to send us your questions and comments using Live Colorful, the hashtag, and we may use them on an upcoming episode.
Whoop, whoop.
Yep. So you can also, famous. And if you don't use Twitter, you can also email us at colorfullivespod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail on the Colorful Life line at 646-580-0576.
And if we use your question, we'll send you a signed copy of Tanya Rapley's new book, The Money Manual, as a special thank you.
Whoop, whoop.
Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud to be the first to hear brand new episodes when they drop.
Colorful Lives, presented by State Farm, is a Loudspeaker studio production.
Our executive producers are Matt Raz and Chris Morrow. The show is engineered and edited by Dwayne Crawford. For more information on Colorful Lives and other Loudspeaker podcasts, follow LSN Podcasts on Twitter or Loudspeakers Network on Instagram.